go.
Okay, so we finally got the roll shear cutting all the way through the material. So after we put the roll in, cut the material, we wind up with a pile on the conveyor side of the blade and then a pile still on the table. Our challenge now is how do we get these two separate piles off the table individually, not at the same time. So, you know, how do we go about doing that? What could we do? Could we leave the blade down and find out a way to maybe push something up from the bottom to push this off onto the conveyor and then raise the blade up and tilt the table and let the remainder come off? Somebody brought up the question, could we raise the blade up like maybe 6 to 8 inches? And then after raising it up 6 to 8 inches, then begin to tilt the table a little bit, which would allow this pile to slide off, yet hold this pile back. That might leverage a little too much pressure onto the blade, but that was a thought that someone had. Another thought that we had was, could we come up with some type of hinge back here with two arms coming up on either side of the table so that after the blade went up and cleared, we have something on a hinge here that would come down and hold this material back, allow the table to rotate up, let this slide off, and then raise this up and let the rest of the material slide off. Somebody else brought up, we now have a UHW insert in this gap to allow the blade to cut against it. So after the blade goes back, could we figure out some way or another that these inserts could come up and sit here and block this material, tilt the table up, let this fall off, let it clear, and then have this insert go back down in the table and let the rest of the material slide off. But trying to come up with different ideas, different ways. Oh, another idea we had was, could we put something under the table on this side that would come up through the table? It might take the material and curl it up this way, but could you bring something up under the table to curl this up and hold it back? And then when you raise the table up, it was still holding it, allowing this to fall off. And then after that's cleared, you could pull this back out and then allow the rest of it to fall off. But some way of devising a method where we can get half a roll on the conveyor. When we start to tilt the table and both piles come together and go off on the conveyor, it turns into a big knot and it doesn't want to travel around the corner and up the incline. So that's our next challenge.